Hey, somebody needs to wake up. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today, and with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by our friends at Tucker ATV. You know, the sheer variety of power sport products at Tucker ATV will just blow your mind. The Hustler turf equipment, the entire line of Echo power tools, and of course, Tucker ATV carries every make and model of Polaris ATVs. They have the big Polaris side-by-sides, even bigger Ranger crew, and you have to see the showroom. The showroom is unbelievable. Taxidermy, antique displays, an indoor porch with a porch swing, comfortable chairs, television, and free coffee. You should stop in and meet Shannon and Lisa Tucker. They treat customers like family, which is why folks from 14 states have done business with Tucker ATV. Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. Tucker ATV, the small town business with the national reputation. Well, observations and answers are what we do here. And of course, you know we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. And we have that today. I have a friend on here. Now, this is the second time this guy has been on the Professional Noticer. And he asked me, he said, "What, you want me on again?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "What are we going to talk about?" I said, "You. We're going to talk about you." And this will be, I can just tell you before we get going, this will be one of the most interesting episodes of The Professional Noticer. No pressure here. That you have ever seen. So please welcome the CEO of a college, a speaker, a person with one of the most interesting backgrounds I've ever heard of, a cool husband, great daddy, and the best corporate trainer I've ever seen. Please welcome Sam Dantzler. Hey, buddy.
You and those intros, man. You get me every time, I swear.
Listen, I am glad you're here. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you.
You've actually been in our town for, I guess, about 24, a little more hours now.
Yeah.
We went fishing yesterday. I hesitate to say we didn't do great. We caught fish.
Well, I caught one, so at least I didn't bring the whole team down, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you caught yours early, and so it wasn't on you. It wasn't on you. But we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, Sam, you and I met. We met because of a mutual client, mutual friends. Scott and Anthony at One Water Marine.
Right.
And I had been hearing about Sam this and Sam that, and at one point you were coming into the Destin store, and so Scott and Anthony said, "Hey, why don't you come over and hang out and hear Sam?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." And so I went in, and of course, you know, I've seen a lot of speakers, a lot of presenters, a lot of trainers. But I was blown away. I was really, really excited to see you. And you have a niche. And so tell everybody what the niche is, because your clients, you work with a lot of marine places, a lot of boat places. You work with Polaris. You work with Harley Davidson. And so what is this niche that you figured out?
Well, the niche is basically that you're talking about two different industries, right? Power sports, which we started off in motorcycles and it launched into power sports, all of power sports, dirt bikes, ATVs, UTVs. Polaris is actually our biggest client. They are, and we are their biggest vendor. We do a lot with Polaris, as I know you do as well, as I hear the Tucker ad.
Well, right? I work with one of their people, so.
Yeah, we should just go get on some ATVs right now, actually. And that's, I have a love affair with that. And then the marine industry, those are the only two industries that we play in. So growing up in Florida, I was exposed to boats and boating lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. Dad was a Navy man, so really enjoyed that. But as a kid, I think you want what you're not allowed to have, not what you are allowed to have. And I was forbidden to have a motorcycle, and that has clearly backfired in my parents' life. But those are the industries we play in, want-based emotionally driven industries, right? And so I got really excited about, why do we make those decisions as human beings? Why do we say yes to the thing that's completely illogical?
So there are need-based purchases.
Sure.
And there are want-based purchases.
Correct. I don't think anyone's ever woken up in the middle of the night thinking, one day I'm going to own a Toyota Corolla. No offense to Corolla, great car. Nobody's ever dreamed of a Corolla. You dream of a helicopter or boat or an island or a motorcycle or driving a Formula One car. Or these are the dreams. And why do we do that? Because it's so irrational. It's so illogical. Some of those are not very safe. And I really like the psychology of why people do it. And I think that's probably what you see that comes out of me when I train, is just getting recognition from the audience that, oh yeah, I do that. I do want the bag of Cheetos instead of the salad. Why do I want the bag of Cheetos?
Right.
Just like, Cheetos are good. Just don't read the ingredients on the back. Right? So that's kind of the niche we work in.
There is it's amazing, because I love the psychology of thought. And so I see that manifested a lot in what you do. You know, I am big with my clients on saying it's not enough to know how to do it, but to know why it works as it does. And so this is what I see you do too, which fascinates me, because until I didn't know anybody else but me that kind of pushed that narrative forward. And
which is funny, because I had been reading your books long before we ever met. So when we got in that room together, clearly there was an engagement there, right?
Yeah, well, it was great. And I think long-term friendship here now. Yeah. You live in Colorado.
I do.
Now, and tell us about your family. I think this is just awesome.
Navy dad. I was 46 years old, or he was 46 years old when I was born. So had an older dad, which comes with some pretty amazing things. Family settled in the relationship, right? And you get the wisdom of somebody who's been around the block a few times. Love my dad, Navy man. And my mom was, it's funny. My mom went to Florida State. My dad went to University of Florida, and I couldn't get into either one of those schools. So I had to go out of state and transfer in. Back then you could do it with a 2.5, but no longer. So great family growing up. Mom was a travel agent. Dad was a on-air personality on the 6 o'clock evening news in Tampa, Florida for 20 years, right? And so mom got to go on these familiarization trips. So as a family, we'd go different places. And I remember 7 years old going out to a ski resort in Colorado, and I looked around and I'm like, well, this is clearly where I need to be. And the day I graduated from Florida State, I hightailed it out to Colorado to be a ski bum for a few years and never turned back. So enjoyed it very much. Bounced around a little bit during college years and early 20s, but once I stuck out in Colorado, I was not going anywhere.
I'm curious about the background, because I look at mine and I think, what I do, there's no degree for that. What you do, there's no degree for that. And to say that it's a product of hard knocks is probably overstating it a little bit. But I think where you and I are is definitely a product of what we have experienced and what we have been privileged to observe, right? And I think a lot of people see things, but I think very few people think deeply about those things later. And I think that you have. And so I'm curious as to your background. I think the ski thing has a lot of, there's got to be a lot of stuff in there, mountains and skiing and risk. And I mean, it's just got to be. And so what are some of the jobs? How did you earn a living?
Yeah. Well, it just seems like every job I had, I was in a position to learn from whoever my guest, client, customer was. So when I went out to Colorado, I was like, well, I just want to be a bellman. I just want to have the right shift, which turned out to be from 3 to 11, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, right? Because then I would just go to bed so that I could get up and I would go skiing or snowboarding every single morning. But during 3 to 11, when you're a bellman at a high-end lodge, there are a lot of people to learn from. And it's one of those like, well, my dad always taught me, he's like, pay attention to people who are successful and look at how they do what they do. Because most of them I found really want to help. They want to help somebody else get to their level.
Right.
And so any chance I could get, I would sit down and have a chat. And anytime the guests wanted to hang out with me, I'm just amazed by that. And there was a position, it was called the Pines Lodge in Beaver Creek, Colorado. That's where I worked. And there was a position there called, there was a gal who was a concierge. And a couple times she would go up on the mountain with the guests, and she called herself a skiing concierge. And she'd tour all around the mountain with these families and get to know the families and run. I was like, well, that's the job I need to have. And eventually I took over that job, and I told my boss, I'm like, I need to do this on a snowboard. It's going to be better. It's going to be, I'm going to relate to the kids more, and they're going to think this is cool and this guy's all right and everything. So I was a snowboarding concierge on the mountain. And then I got paid to do this for Vail Associates back in the day. And you really get to know the families. And I think what you're getting at is just being inquisitive, asking questions and figuring out who these people are. And how am I supposed to get there? To your point, my degree didn't get me there. Interdisciplinary studies. I still don't know what that degree is, but somehow they gave me the diploma and let me out the door. But it's like, well, I need to figure out kind of what I'm going to do. And I love motorcycles, and I think people are weird. So how do I figure out how to do something with both of those,
Good grief. Now, I also saw by accident that you can juggle.
I can't juggle.
But you juggle well.
There was a time where I juggled pretty well, not as well anymore, but yes.
Now, how did this come about?
So my brother taught me how to juggle rolled up socks when I was a kid. And then I went to Florida State University. Florida State University has the only collegiate circus in the country at the time. There's another school now that has one. So Jack Haskins, the founder of the circus, he had men's sports and women's sports. And he's like, why don't we have something where we can do it together? And so he created the circus. So no animals, all acrobatic stuff. And there's actually a circus at Florida State University. And I said, well,
is this still going on?
It is still going on. Absolutely. I'm drawing a blank on the years, but let's see, 75th anniversary just rolled by. So it's been going on for a long time.
Wow.
And there are tryouts every year. And there are people who are cut from didn't get cut when I was there. You just got to, you showed up, you got to play, especially the men. There were a bunch of women who were there, and they just didn't have enough guys when I was there. And
it's just like, what did you get your degree in? Clown?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't Ringling
School. I graduated in clown.
It's all extracurricular. You got one PE credit for however long you were there. I was 5 years in the circus, but you get one PE credit that went along with that. But it was just, it was amazing. And at the same time, Florida State had more, and this was late 80s, early 90s timeframe. They had more walk-on football players than anywhere in the country. And I thought, I wonder if I can walk on that football team. And I went out to try to walk onto that football team. And they said, we could probably use you. And, a tackling dummy or something, we could probably use you. But you're going to have to give up on this circus thing because there's no time for both. And I thought, hanging out with a bunch of guys getting tackled all the time, or hanging out with a bunch of girls who were cheerleaders in high school and performing, I'm going to go this route.
Yeah.
This route is going to be better for a lot of reasons that when you're in your 20s make a lot of sense, right? So I did that, and I was in Florida State Flying High Circus for 5 years, and one of the acts that I decided to get good at, because if you think about, like, could I have a career in circus? Well, the guys, there are a lot of people getting beat up with shoulder injuries from flying on the catching on the flying trapeze and stuff like that. And I thought I could probably parlay this juggling thing a little bit longer, which I ended up doing. So
how'd you do that?
Well, I went to a buddy of mine, started working. I did a stint at Universal Studios and Disney World doing pre-shows, juggling pre-shows before the Sinbad show would come out. We would do a little comedy routine and stuff like that. One of my buddies, Randy Cabral, started working on cruise ships, doing little stints, juggling on cruise ships. I was like, well, I think I could do that. That'd be pretty neat. So we ended up doing an 8-month contract for Royal Caribbean, and then 4 months on the backside of that one. So you're a cruise ship guy yourself. You know how that is, right? You just jump on and start at it.
And you were on Royal Caribbean?
I was on Royal Caribbean. I was on the Voyager of the Seas.
I did RCCL.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
I love the cruise line. It's no offense to the other ones, but there's some that are kind of hokey for young people. And then there's some that really older, opulence, great food and everything. And Royal Caribbean kind of sat right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought so too.
It was a good brand to be part of.
Yeah. That is, I bet you probably have as many stories about cruise ships as I did.
Probably not. No, I mean,
I've got some pretty crazy ones. So, But it is funny. Yeah, people don't understand being. I mean, when they think about you being on a cruise. There are two things that I found people think. One is they think love boat,
right?
Okay, and at the time that I started, there was no such thing as a female cruise director. You know, and so that was always odd to me. But the other thing that they think is they think that it's like they have taken a cruise. They were on a cruise for a week, so they think they know what your life is like. And it's like, no, it's like kind of Groundhog Day, you know, because you were on there for a week. Imagine doing that same week, same food at the same time, same stuff for 16 weeks, you know. Like,
same ports of call.
Yeah. When I started on cruise ships, there was not there was not the televisions in the cabins with the online movies. Superman was in the theater, the original one with Christopher Reeve. Superman for 16 weeks. Oh. You know, it's like, okay, you will believe a man can fly. Not so much. Not really. Not really. I believe a man can float. But
that's funny to me because people are like, you know, they'll just pick a spot. They think cruises, they think Caribbean. Like, you been to Jamaica? I'm like, yeah, 28 times. Don't need to go back. Great place. Don't need to be there.
Right. I've been to Jamaica so many times that I got where I wouldn't get off the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because then it's just the hustle, right? And you get off and they're all the locals, right? There's cool Marco and cool Jeremy and cool Cynthia. Like, they're all cool, whatever. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good, guys. I'm just going to be on the ship.
I'm fine. I just gotta stay on. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, the different things.
So let me just ask you, how fun on cruise ships is it to go to the crew bar and not know anyone and just sit down and start up a conversation?
Or to go and after you've been on for 8 weeks and you're eating the food off the menu, to go into the crew kitchen.
Right.
And just get some of what they're eating.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
as an entertainer, we got to go to the officers' mess, right?
Right.
And we were very fortunate in that because the crew mess was a little bit different, a little less caliber food.
But it was amazing. And tell you about the ports. I was on a ship one time that went to Samaná in the Dominican Republic.
Wow. Okay.
And it was always very curious to me because every week they would dump the passengers off there, and within an hour, people would start coming back, and they were angry.
Why?
They're just mad. Well, because it was kind of a mean area. There was nothing there. And these people would come back and say, why did they do this? Why are we here? You know, why are they going here? And you know, some of them, I would say, you don't know the truth? Well, the truth is that on your brochure, 4 ports sound better than 3. And this is a port that they pay $50,000 to dock in instead of $500,000. And so that's why we're here. This is horrible. Yeah, yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
but you know, Andy, there's you talked about psychology of thought, and there's an opportunity, and there's something that really hit me when I was on cruise ships, and quite frankly, working on a ski resort and everything, which is just some perspective.
Yeah.
When you sit on the crew bar and you're talking to some guy from Trinidad and Tobago and he's got 2 jobs on the ship and he's sending all the money home to his family, and you're just like,
and he's making $100 a week and thrilled.
What a privilege that I get to, right? That's where the get to versus got to conversation came from. I get to do this, and I get to have this chat with this man, and we get to get off on these islands that would love to have the life we have. Anyone, pick anyone in this country, and they would love to have this opportunity here. And so I just have this mindset of, well, I get to do this. And kind of like you, we spend a lot of time on planes, and when the plane doesn't get where it's supposed to go, you're like, well, I get to find a new adventure, as opposed to I'm bent out of shape.
Yeah. Who am I supposed to meet? You know, what, how can I use this time? You know, gosh, I have time to do something that I can catch up on so-and-so. Yeah. But you do see people that really go from one aggravating situation to another, because I think they're either not looking, it's one of 2 things. They're either not swimming purposefully upstream. They are swimming purposefully downstream, or they're just treading water. And when you tread water, you go downstream.
Well, and their mindset is
Right.
that of going downstream or treading water,
So you
as well
have
as their
to
actions.
purposefully look for the good.
Yeah. And,
You
and
know?
I think in reading so many, it's so funny that, I've read so much of your stuff before you and I ever met. And it's just like, if I put a bow around so much of it, there's a philosophy I have, which is that you get what you give. You don't get what you want. You get what you give. What are you giving? What are you giving other people? And how do you go into that with the right mindset every time? So in one of your, I think it was your 7 decisions, you talk about just get in the habit of talking and smiling, or presenting and smiling, right? Because it changes the dynamic of the room. And every time as a presenter, I think entertainment, not entertainment, entertainment. I'm here to train 51% of the time and have a good time 49% of the time.
Right.
Because I think if you're in that chair, you're going to want both.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think, with what you and I do in the training arena, it's funny because when I was working as just a straight entertainer, people would say, well, you can't have a show longer than this. You can't do longer than this. You can't have anything longer than this. Really, why is that? Well, people, they lose interest. They get bored. And I always thought, that's ridiculous. If it's interesting, it doesn't matter how long it is. It's just like, well, you can't do this American Pie song because it's 6.5 minutes long, and no radio station will play it, because nobody will listen to it. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Yeah. How'd that work out? The radio stations all played the album version, and that became this iconic song. But you do not want to hear a 2.5 minute version of American Pie. Where's the part about so-and-so? Where's the part about so-and-so? And so it's that interest and that smiling and the eyebrows up, that part of that kind of presenting Christmas morning to people, I think is very different for most people. And I think that people enjoy it. And I think because they enjoy it, they'll hang in there.
So you just landed on something huge, which is presenting Christmas morning. Now you think about all of us who are parents out there, think about your child on Christmas morning. Think about the 30 days leading up to Christmas and that word anticipation. And when I look at the boating industry, we do things called cross-pollination between the two industries, trying to get them to understand that I got a whole industry doing it this way. It can be done.
Right.
Motorcycle industry goes into hibernation mode during the winter. They're like, sales slow down. Nobody does anything. I'm like, when the boating industry sells most of their boats? Boat shows. Do you know when the boat shows are? For the most part around the country, they're in winter.
Yeah.
Right? People are excited. People are buying $100,000+ toys off of emotion and anticipation. That is the niche that we play in.
Right.
You really have to get behind the psychology of what causes that to happen to evoke that emotion. And really, all we have to do as salespeople is get out of the way and let people do what they already want to do. They already want to buy the motorcycle, the ATV, or the boat. They already want to do it. You just have to not stop them from doing it by throwing logic at the equation.
Right. I was going to just say, talk about that difference of emotion and logic.
Well, you sit here and you think about all the bad decisions we've made in our life. So many of them, most of them were centered around emotion. If you've ever seen someone dating the wrong person, the emotion of being in love. She's great. And everyone's like, no, she's not. No, really, she's not. This is a toxic relationship.
You think she's great, but she's not.
That's right. And all of your best friends are telling you she's not the right one. You can't see it because you're the person who's in love, right? So we make these decisions based out of the level of emotion. When emotion comes in the human brain, logic has left the building. Logic's gone, right? These are why kids, my daughter's 14 years old. I think I would be appalled if somebody said, oh, your daughter did X, Y, and Z. And what do you mean my daughter? My daughter didn't do that. My kid doesn't roll that way. Well, you know what? Yeah, she does. Because what she wants more than anything is to fit in at this age. And she will do things that fly right in the face of what she knows she should be doing in an attempt to fit in and feel loved, which is right in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs scenario, right? So she will do the emotional thing because logic has taken the building because she's caught up in the emotion at that moment of fitting in. And we've all done that. You buy a boat to celebrate your success and you want to pull up at the yacht club in the boat. It has nothing to do with the money or the features of the boat. It has all to do with the emotion. So in the world of selling, if we can tap into what you find exciting about the boat, who cares what I find exciting about it? Then I can win you over. I can simply bring it to life and get out of your way and let you do what you already want to do, which is buy the boat. In the middle of that, we get into a scenario where people buy from people they like and trust. Sales training 101. Every salesperson who's written a book has written about but nobody tells you how to get someone. I mean, how do you put parameters around the word trust? Who do you trust? I don't know. Someone who's earned I don't know. There's no time limit there's no 4 boxes that we can check and say, there, now I trust Andy. There, he met these 4 pieces of criteria. And you've ever been somewhere and you instantly trust somebody?
Yeah, yeah.
Or the flip side, you've known them for 20 years. You're like, I don't trust that guy as far as I can throw him.
Right.
I'll go have beer with him, but I'm not going to pick up my kid at school. He'll forget.
Right.
So if you get behind the dynamics and the reaction in the brain that cause trust, you can literally turn the valves on in another human being to cause trust in another human being, which is very self-serving, which is why we have to do it with integrity. But I can get you to trust me instead of rattling off features and benefits, which every salesperson around the country seems to think is the way to get someone to trust them. And
right.
So, I'm going all over the place with your question originally, but that is the niche when you're talking about want-based selling and logic versus emotion. Logic is gone until we, the sales team or the business, bring logic back into the equation. And then, you start with a premise. There's nothing logical about owning a boat, a $400,000 boat, or a $30,000 motorcycle. So stop bringing logic to the table.
It's funny to me how people, guys especially, do this. That they will make their decision with emotion, and then they defend it.
That's right. That's right.
Like, they really bought the car because it was red, and they've always wanted a car like that. That's really why they want. But then when they get home, they tell their wife, this has all the safety features. This is this Consumer Report says this is the safest car model of this year. And this, and let me show you what the tires, let me show you something special about these tires. That ain't why they bought it at all.
No, that's right.
They bought it because it was red. And they're red.
Justify it. I've always said also nouns need verbs. Nobody ever bought a noun. You bought the verb. You bought the vacation with your family on the boat. You didn't buy the boat. You bought the thing that's driving the boat. You didn't buy a Ferrari to have a Ferrari in the garage and not talk about it. You bought it to go race it at the track or be seen in the Ferrari, or like, what is the verb that is behind it? This is particularly with material goods.
I love that.
The watch, the jewelry, the clothes.
I love that. I wonder if I can get that in a book before you do.
Based on track records, I think you can.
Hey, are you working on a book?
Isn't everybody working on a book?
Everybody should be.
Everybody should be. But they say there's a book in everyone, right?
I think there's more than a book in you. I think there's more than one book in you.
It's trying to put some parameters around the ADHD to get it to a piece of paper.
I know how to do that.
Yeah,
I know how to do that. So.
Well, yeah, the book that I've had in my head forever. I played basketball my whole life, and I kind of destroyed my right ankle. And I used to love to run, but since that's been off the table, I built a custom road bicycle living in the foothills of Colorado to rehab the ankle, and I fell in love with cycling. And so I've been doing it all throughout the mountains. And there was a documentary called Icarus on Netflix, which maybe some of the listeners have seen. If you haven't, it's a spectacular documentary. And it's about this guy who was almost a professional cyclist, almost Tour de France kind of rider. And he wanted to experience this thing called Haute Route, which Haute route, hot route. If you're an American, Haute Route, if you're European. And it's basically a company that said, we're going to present a 7-day race that's going to hit all of the major mountain peaks featured in the Tour de France. And we're going to treat you like a racer. We're going to have mechanics for your bikes. We're going to feed you. You just go to bed. There's massages at the end of every stage. We're going to treat you like a racer for 7 days. And he was very excited to do this race. And so he did it. He finished 8th the first year. And then the whole time he was thinking about Lance Armstrong and how is it that he was the most tested athlete in history and never triggered it. And then he thought, well, what if I started taking performance enhancing drugs? and see if I can pull off this race and let's make a documentary about it. Documentary took a left turn because he hooked up with the guy who was the Russian who was actually in charge of the Olympic Russian program as far as doping the athletes back in the day, and the drama that came as a result of that. I don't want to get myself in trouble with Russia, so I'm going to stop talking. But it's a great show.
Trust me, Russia's got other things going on.
They got a few things to worry about.
They're not listening to us. Yeah.
So the documentary was a great story, but it kind of went away from this one guy in the oat route. But I got fascinated with that route. I'm like, I want to do that. 2018, they brought oat route Rockies. So what if you took that race and brought it to the Rocky Mountains right in my backyard? And my wife's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. And so
she really wanted you out of the house.
She really wanted me out, right? Some peace and quiet.
You got to do this
for 7 days. Yeah. And so I did that. I did that ride. Was I don't remember. It was just shy of 600 miles, 550 or something, and 50,000 feet of climbing. And there's a day off in the middle, so it's really 6 days and whatever. She and the kid were chasing me from stage to stage like my support crew, and it was really pretty spectacular. And that last stage finished on top of Pikes Peak. So you climb Pikes Peak, and I had this picture of hugging my kid at the top of it, and I just emotionally fell apart at the end of that thing. It was so
good grief.
It was amazing on so many different levels. And I thought every day I was out there, right? You're just sitting there with your thoughts the whole time while you're riding this bike. And that's when I thought.
And are your thoughts, why am I doing this?
That comes up just about every morning, right? You get on the bike, you're like, that seat is not how comfortable I remembered it from yesterday, right? Then you settle into it. But you know, all of the things that come into your brain, you know, why would somebody chase down something like this? It's the epitome of emotion over logic and, you know, overcoming adversity. I did a front flip off the bike on a crash and I got back up and you're like, why am I getting back up? Why am I getting on this bike again? Right. It's just like, I credit my circus prowess to landing on my feet. So that was
you did a front flip, but you were juggling bowling pins.
Yeah, that's exactly. And so in my brain, that's, you know, 7 days and seven real chapters just came into my head. And so I was scribbling that furiously when I got home and trying to put it all together. And in my brain, you know, my wife said, I couldn't talk about it. I really just couldn't even speak about that race for a good month. And she said, well, if you can't talk about that race or anything you want to tell me. And I said, I want to go do it in France in 2020 when I turned 50. And that was the plan, is for me to go do the actual one in the Tour de France stages. And then obviously COVID hit. My computer crashed, lost all the rough draft stuff that I had, even though I have it mapped out on some flashcards. And so in my head, that is still there. I still am going to go do this race in France. I'm going to do it next year. So I think all these emotions will probably come right back. And we'll see if that happens.
Don't let the computer crash stop you. I understand what that's like. You know, when I was writing The Traveler's Gift, I lost the entire Truman chapter.
Wow.
I had spent a couple or 3 weeks writing that chapter and got in the computer one day and it was gone. And you know, I agonized over that. And there was a company that said, I think it was $2,500, which I didn't have it at the time, but they said for $2,500, we can search your hard drive, but it's $2,500 whether we find it or not.
Right.
So I decided to pay the $2,500 and they did not find it. And it took me a while to get back into the mode of rewriting. And, you know, because at first I was trying to remember it. And I just had to do it again. But I know what it's like to lose that and think, okay, I just don't even want to think about this.
You do have to walk away from it for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe I've walked away from it for too long now since it was 2018. But
no, it'll be fine because it'll be like a new thing. And you have several years more observations about it. You know, it'll be a better book.
I just think there's so much that could be shared out of that book. You know, discipline, pushing through adversity, wanting to quit multiple times, whatever it is in life. You know,
right.
There's some of the obvious that comes to the surface out of that, and then some subtleties of some emotions I was feeling that maybe aren't so obvious that would be entertaining for people. So
all right.
We'll see. Thank you for asking. We'll see how that goes.
That book. How can we help you, Sam? What can we do?
Buddy, you asked me that last time, and I struggled with that same comment last time, and it's because I just sit here and I'm like, my life is fantastic. I'm so grateful for the relationship I have with you. I'm grateful for the career that I have and then I get to have with a couple business partners, including my wife on one side of the fence, right? I have Tony and Glow on Garage Composites with our company. And then the other company over here is my wife runs it all. And so Brandy and Abigail, my little compact family, I couldn't be happier. So nothing. Thank you for taking me fishing yesterday. That was fantastic. Thank you for dinner last night. I mean, it's just small things like that. Really add up.
We're gonna have your different companies and how to contact you on the show notes, and so people can dig into all things Sam Dantzler.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, buddy.
Yeah, this is great. And right here, sitting at the table, table, right?
The table,
That's right.
But I love hanging with you, and we'll have dinner tonight at the Gulf.
That would be great.
So we got to figure out where we're going to have lunch right now.
What did you mention post dinner last night where we went?
Oh yeah. I took Sam to the Floribama. He got to experience the Floribama.
I loved it
on the slowest night of the week, and it was still pretty.
It was pretty great, and right when you and Polly bugged out, that band started picking up the action. I may say that I stayed for another song or two on the back.
They picked up after we left.
They got into some faster songs. Yeah, they were rocking and rolling.
Oh my gosh!
And that place, for those listeners who don't know, a band in every corner, right? Multiple bands, multiple levels. It was
multiple
a great
stages. It's crazy. The last Great American Roadhouse. The Floribama. Yeah. I mean, Buffett's written a song about it. He's played there several times. John Grisham's had it in one of his books. It's in USA Today 3 or 4 times a year. And
growing up in rural Florida, I can appreciate calling it the Redneck Riviera. I felt like I fit right in last night.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's it.
Thank you for that.
That's it. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Appreciate it. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you. Seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Scratching posts for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by realproducts.com. Friends, have you just had it with the concept of artificial? Do you long for the reality of yesteryear? If so, you're on the same page as realproducts.com. Realproducts.com represents authenticity, providing you the opportunity to bring some certainty back into your feelings about the goods and services you consume. From toys to foods to pharmaceuticals, realproducts.com represents you and your family's desire for genuine manufactured commodities. Look for the realproducts.com label, and you can be sure that what you are buying is real. For instance, if you attempt to scare an acquaintance with a toy reptile and he or she responds, "That's just a fake rubber snake," you can push it towards them again saying, "No, my friend, it is not a fake rubber snake. It's a real rubber snake, and you'd better watch out." At realproducts.com, we don't represent fake artificial sweeteners or fake lab-produced chemicals. We deal in real artificial sweeteners and real lab-produced chemicals. We are what our name says we are. Look for the label realproducts.com.